Hi, 6th graders. We are starting Unit 8, which is our Shapes and Measurement unit. This lesson is on area of parallelograms, triangles, and trapezoids. So label your paper appropriately. And here we go. So first one we're going to talk about is area of a parallelogram. So please write this down. Area of a parallelogram. Draw yourself a model of a parallelogram. Remember, a parallelogram has two sets of parallel sides. It's a quadrilateral, so 4 sides, 2 sets of parallel sides. So we can see that these sides are parallel, these sides are parallel, so that's what makes it a parallelogram. Delete that though. And the formula for finding the area of a parallelogram is area equals base times height. So we can see here we have our base and our height labeled. So if I draw a parallelogram up here just to show you why it is the way that it is, if I kind of just make this a straight line right here, and if I take this, so see how it makes a triangle? If I take this and I swing it over here and I like flip it around, it would basically fit in right here, and you could see now it makes a rectangle. Which again, I have the height and I have the base of my parallelogram. It's just that this part now is over on this side. So that's why the area of a parallelogram is base times height, which is basically the same as a rectangle base times height. So make sure you have that down with an example with your formula. So if we look at a few, we have this parallelogram. The base is 13 centimeters and the height is 5 8/10 centimeters. So you would should write this down or draw this in your notebook, and then take a second and find what the area would be. So the way that I would write this is I know that area equals base times height. Here's my base. Here's my height. So now I'm going to rewrite it and plug in what I know. I know my base is 13. My height is 5 8/10. So now I'm going to put it into my calculator. I know that 13 times 5 8/10 is 75 4/10. And my label is going to be whatever units it is, but area is always squared, remember. So 75 4/10 squared would be the area of that parallelogram. Okay, if we look at this one right here, okay, this is also a parallelogram. This time it has 3 things labeled. So we have to be really careful when we look at a parallelogram like this, because this is our base, this is our height, and this is a side. Remember, the area of a parallelogram is base times height. So the side is really nothing, it has nothing to do with the area. The area then is going to be 11 times 9, which we know 11 times 9 is 99, with my units is inches squared. Always, always, always have your label with it. An area is squared. So those are examples of finding the area of parallel. All right, so now we're going to look at a triangle. So please write down area of a triangle. Draw your model of a triangle with its base and height labeled. And here's the area, or the formula, which is 1/2 times base times height. Same as base times height over 2. Either way. Okay, so when we take the area of a triangle, and again, if I look at a rectangle, and remember a rectangle, the area is base times height. If I split it down the middle, now I have 2 triangles. So basically a triangle is the base times the height, and I just divide it by 2, and then I get a triangle. So that's why it's base times height divided by 2. All right, so let's look at this triangle. We have a base of 10, and a height of 6.5. So I know that the area of a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. So I have 1/2 times 10 times 6.5. I know right away that 1/2 times 10 is 5. So I can simplify this into 5 times 6.5. And then I'm going to put this in my calculator. 5 times 6.5 is, I'm going to write this over here, 32.5. And I look at what the units are, which is meters. And then it's going to be meters squared. So 32.5 meters squared. All right, if we look at these next two triangles, if you want to pause me and find the area of both of these triangles, that'd be great, and then come back and check. Otherwise, watch me do one more, and then you could try the last one on your own too. So this triangle, we know that our base is 14 and our height is 11. So I have area equals 1/2 times base times height. So I have 1/2 times 14 times 11. I know that 1/2 of 14 is 7. So I can do 7 times 11. So area equals 77 feet because I match up the units, squared because it is area. Here we have, it looks a little bit different, but this is our base and then this is our height. Even though it's not inside the triangle, it's still the height because I know from the base to the top, it's that would be what the height is. So we have area equals 1/2 times base times height. So area equals 1/2 times 7.5 times 8. I know that 1/2, and multiplication is commutative, so you can go in any order. 1/2 of 8 is 4, so 4 times 7.5. So I'm going to put that in my calculator. 4 times 7.5 would be 30. Oops. And it would be 30 inches squared. All right, last shape that we're going to discuss in this video is trapezoids. So write down area of trapezoid. Show your model with all the labels. And then here is our formula, which is 1/2 times the height times the base 1 and the base 2. So basically the bases added together. So the B1 and the B2, they both mean bases. B1, oops, and B2 are the bases. And the 1 just means one of the bases, and the 2 means the other bases. It doesn't mean base squared. It just means first base and second base. So if we look at this one right here, 7 is our height. Oops, that's supposed to be an H. 12, and it doesn't necessarily matter which base is which, but we could say 5 is base 1 and 12 is base 2. So if we look at our formula, I'm going to rewrite it. A equals 1/2 times the height, and then in parentheses is B1 plus B2. So remember PEMDAS, order of operations, we do our parentheses first, then we do outside. So before I do anything, I'm going to plug in what I have. So my H is 7, my B1, base 1 is 5, base 2 is 12. So notice how I just rewrote it like that. Now I'm going to do my parentheses first. So I have A equals 1/2 times 7 times 17. And now I can just multiply in order. So I know 1/2 of 7 is 3.5. So I'm going to just simplify that to 3.5 times 17. I'm just keeping it in parentheses just because it was before, but it's really just the same as doing 3.5 times 17. So now I'm going to go 3.5 times 17, and I get 59.5 inches squared. All right, let's zoom in and do this one together. Or if you want to try to go ahead and do it without me, feel free as well. So I have my height, I have my base 1, and I have my base 2. The area of a trapezoid is 1/2 times the height, base 1 plus base 2. So basically I add the bases together, multiply times half of the height is what I'm doing. So we have 1/2 times 4, and then 2.5 plus 4.8. So I know 1/2 times 4 is 2, so I'm just going to simplify that really quick right now. So 2 times, and then we have 4.8 plus 2.5 is 7.3. And now I just have to do 7 3/10 times 2, and I get 14.6. I match my units, so meters squared. Okay, let's do one more, and then we are done for these topics for this video. So we have a trapezoid, which, by the way, we know it's a trapezoid because it has one set of parallel sides. So these sides right here are parallel, and the side that is parallel are the sides that are the bases. So if by chance, like, these sides are labeled, well, these wouldn't be the bases because they're not parallel. So that's how I know that this is going to be base 1, this is going to be base 2, and that's the height. Okay, so you might want to write bases equals the set of parallel sides, if that helps, because you might get a trapezoid like on its side, like you might get something, or even like this, and then we know that this would be base 1, this would be base 2, because these are parallel. Okay, that's a side note for you right there. All right, so we have area equals 1/2 times the height, base 1 plus base 2. So let's plug this in. 1/2 times 0.3, and then we have base 1 is 1 plus 0.5. So let's rewrite it. 1/2 times 0.3 times 1.5. And now let's just put this all into our calculator. I'm just going to change 1/2 to 0.5 because the rest are decimals. So 0.5 times 0.3 times 1.5 equals 0.225. And then I keep my feet squared because it is area. All right, so hopefully you have some good examples of parallelograms, triangles, trapezoids. I'm going to be looking to see that you have the formulas written down for each of those shapes with some examples. Make sure you have your notes in class, and I will see you tomorrow.